Damien and his friends thought it would be hilarious to leave me alone in a deserted coastal town outside Barcelona at 5 in the morning, no phone, no money, no explanation of whether they were coming back or not. When Elena opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was the soft orange glow of the Mediterranean sunrise stretching across the horizon, painting the old stone walls of the town with a quiet warmth. Yet inside her, nothing was warm. It was a strange mix of calm and sharpness, the kind that comes not from fear, but from realization. There was no Damien beside her, no loud chatter from his drunken friends, no sign of the yacht they had arrived on just hours earlier. Only the sound of slow waves brushing against the rocks and a silence deep enough to expose every lie she had ignored for years. People thought Elena stayed quiet because she was fragile. Damien especially believed her silence was the easiest thing to manipulate. He mistook stillness for weakness. But today, standing alone on a cold Spanish shore, she finally understood something she had been denying for too long. Her silence was not weakness. Her silence had always been strategy. The streets around her were empty, the shops still asleep behind their aged wooden shutters. The breeze carried the smell of sea salt and something older, something that felt like history watching her. She tightened her loose white shirt, tied her hair with her trembling fingers, and instead of crying, she began to walk. Each step felt like it peeled away another layer of the version of herself Damien wanted her to be. Memories replayed in her mind like a slow, painful film, Damien dismissing her concerns, rolling his eyes when she spoke, laughing at her soft voice in front of his friends. Elena, stop overthinking. Elena, don't be dramatic. Elena, calm down. Those words had cut deeper than any abandonment could. But standing here, in a foreign place with nothing but her breath, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: control. For once, nobody was talking over her. No one was interrupting her. No one was deciding for her. The silence around her finally belonged to her. At the far end of the beach, an elderly Spanish woman was opening her tiny bakery. She looked up, her wrinkled face softening when she saw Elena's tired but fierce eyes. ¿Estás bien, Nina? Elena hesitated, then smiled, a small, real smile. I think, yes. Maybe for the first time. Without a word, the woman handed her a steaming cup of coffee. Elena wrapped her hands around it, took a deep breath, and with the first sip, something in her settled, something hardened, something woke up. This wasn't abandonment. This was an opportunity. This was the exact moment her story would change. She wasn't going to wait for rescue. She wasn't going to call for help. She was going to rise, and they would never see it coming. Before we continue, please subscribe to support stories of women reclaiming their power. Elena walked deeper into the quiet alleys of the coastal town, the warm coffee still lingering on her tongue like the first taste of a life she had never allowed herself to imagine. The streets were narrow, paved with uneven stones that had been walked on for centuries. Old balconies hung low, decorated with flowers that swayed gently in the morning breeze. As she moved forward, she didn't feel lost, she felt strangely guided, as if Barcelona itself had opened its arms and whispered, "You're not abandoned, you're free." For the first time, she wasn't following Damien's footsteps, she was creating her own. Her mind was unusually clear, sharper than she remembered it ever being. She could still hear Damien's laughter from the night before, echoing in her skull. The way he nudged his friends after leaving her on the shore. The way he walked away without even checking if she noticed. That moment replayed in her mind, not with pain, but with awakening. He hadn't left her because he didn't care. He left her because he was convinced she couldn't survive without him. And that belief, that arrogance, was exactly what she would use to rebuild herself. As the sun climbed higher, Elena found herself standing outside a small language cafe, a cozy place where travelers exchanged stories, taught each other languages, and worked odd jobs for a few euros. Through the glass walls, she saw a young woman teaching Spanish to a group of tourists, her gestures animated and full of life. Something clicked inside Elena. She stepped in, the door chiming softly. The teacher paused and smiled warmly. "Hi there. Looking to join a class?" Elena hesitated, then spoke slowly, actually. I'm looking for work. Anything. I just need a start. The woman studied her for a moment, her tired eyes, her determination, her vulnerability wrapped in steel. I'm Sophia, she said, extending her hand. We don't usually hire without papers, but you look like someone who doesn't give up. Elena felt a lump rise in her throat, not from sadness, but from the shock of being seen. Sophia handed her a flyer. We run cultural tours. If you can speak English and stay calm with tourists, I can give you a trial day. No promises, but it's something. Elena nodded, gripping the paper like it was the first brick of her new foundation. That afternoon, she shadowed Sophia through the Gothic quarter. The tall, ancient buildings towered over her like silent witnesses to her rebirth. Every corner, every archway, every old stone felt like a reminder that history is built by people who refuse to disappear. Elena watched how Sophia spoke, confident, grounded, unafraid. She imagined herself doing the same. She imagined a version of herself Damien would never recognize. And for the first time since the prank, Elena allowed herself to breathe fully. She inhaled the scent of roasted coffee and warm bread drifting from street cafes, the distant music of a guitarist playing near the cathedral, the soft chatter of tourists who were blissfully unaware of the storm she had survived. By sunset, Sophia pulled her aside. You did well today, she said. You observe. You learn fast. Come back tomorrow. We'll make this work. Elena's chest tightened, not with fear, but with gratitude. She whispered, thank you. But inside, she thought something far more powerful. This is just the beginning. The next morning, Barcelona awakened with a golden glow, and Elena stepped into the city with a steadiness she didn't recognize in herself. She wore the same clothes as yesterday, her hair tied back tightly, her face still marked by exhaustion, but her eyes held something new. Purpose. When she reached the language cafe, Sophia was already there, organizing brochures and greeting tourists with her effortless charm. Ready for day 2? Sophia asked. Elena nodded. But internally, she was asking herself a very different question. Am I ready to become a woman Damien can no longer control? The answer was a quiet, steady yes. Sophia introduced her to the team, 4 tour guides, all different, all vibrant, all carrying their own reasons for being in Barcelona. There was Mateo, who knew every hidden street artist in the city, Liana, who could tell the history of every building as if she had lived through it, Jonah, whose humor made even slow walkers feel like part of an adventure, and Noor, a Moroccan writer who worked part-time giving story-based tours. Elena listened to each of them, fascinated. These were people who had built lives from scratch, who had carved a place for themselves far from their pasts. She felt a strange comfort standing among them, as if she had finally entered a world where starting over wasn't something to be ashamed of, it was something to be proud of. Throughout the day, Elena shadowed Mateo through the vibrant streets of El Born. The air smelled of espresso and fresh bread, colorful tiles gleamed under the morning sun. Tourists gathered eagerly, waiting for their stories. Mateo nudged her. Take the intro. I know you can. Elena froze. Her heart thudded. She wasn't ready. But she had promised herself she would no longer run from her own voice. So she stepped forward. Slowly, carefully, she told the group about the neighborhood, her accent soft but her words clear. And despite the nerves trembling inside her, she saw something surprising. People were actually listening. Their eyes didn't wander. They didn't laugh at her softness. They didn't interrupt her. They simply listened. It was a feeling she had forgotten existed. After the tour, Mateo grinned. See? You've got a storyteller in you. Elena looked down, embarrassed and touched at the same time. She had never been good at anything in Damien's eyes. He had never noticed her strengths, he had only noticed the spaces where he could shrink her. But here, standing in the middle of Barcelona with people who believed in potential rather than perfection, she felt her confidence rebuild, piece by piece. Late afternoon, Sophia pulled her aside. I have a proposition, she said. There's a cultural night at the old art house this weekend. We need someone to narrate a short segment about Barcelona's hidden histories. You don't need dramatic performance, just honesty. Your voice has something people connect to. Elena felt her throat tighten. She had never been asked to speak in front of strangers. She never even spoke freely at home without fear of judgment. But something inside her, something that had been sleeping for years, was waking up. I'll do it, she whispered. As she walked back toward the small room Sophia had arranged for her to stay in, she passed by the same coastline where Damien had abandoned her. The sunset glowed fiercely, almost defiantly. She stared at the water for a long moment, her reflection rippling on the surface. The woman she saw there was unfamiliar, stronger, sharper, unbreakable. And for the first time, Elena wasn't afraid of becoming someone new. The night of the cultural event arrived faster than Elena expected. Barcelona glowed beneath strings of golden lights, and the old art house, once a forgotten warehouse, now pulsed with music, soft laughter, and the warm hum of gathered souls. Inside, artists displayed hand-painted tiles, photographs of Catalan streets, and sculptures shaped from recycled iron. The air smelled of jasmine tea and charcoal sketches. Elena stepped in cautiously, her heart beating a little too loud, her palms damp despite the evening breeze drifting through the open door. She kept reminding herself, I am not the woman who begged Damien to stay. Not anymore. Sophia walked over, radiant and proud. Nervous? Terrified, Elena admitted. That's good, Sophia said with a wink. It means you care. The stage was small, just a wooden platform, a single spotlight, and a microphone older than half the people in the room. But to Elena, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. The audience, tourists, locals, artists, and dreamers, filled the room. She could feel their energy, buzzing and warm, not hostile but expectant. She wasn't used to being looked at as someone who mattered. Damien had made sure of that. Every time she had spoken, he had rolled his eyes, corrected her, or dismissed her with a sigh. Those memories clawed at her chest now, threatening to pull her backward. But then she saw Noor, Matteo, Jonah, Liana, and Sophia, who squeezed her shoulder gently. You're safe, she whispered. Those two words anchored her. When her name was called, Elena stepped onto the wooden platform. At first, she couldn't breathe. The microphone felt heavier than it should. A hush settled over the crowd, waiting. The spotlight warmed her face. She swallowed hard. And then, with a breath drawn from somewhere deep inside, she began. She spoke about the hidden histories of Barcelona, stories Matteo had shared, small legends carved into alleyways, whispered tales the tourists loved. But she added her own voice, her own softness, her own truth. She spoke of the city's resilience, how Barcelona had burned and rebuilt itself more than once. How its people carried a strength that wasn't loud, but unshakable. As she spoke, she realized she wasn't just narrating the city's stories, she was telling her own without naming it. Her voice grew more certain. People leaned in. A few nodded. A woman in the front row even wiped a tear. By the time she finished, the room was silent, and then, slowly, applause rose like a wave. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't dramatic. It was sincere. Warm. Real. Elena stepped down, breathless. You did it, Noor whispered. No, Elena said softly. I finally heard myself. But the night wasn't done. As the event wrapped up, she moved through the room, accepting congratulations with a shy smile. And then she saw something that made her heart drop. A familiar figure stood near the entrance, partially lit by the amber glow. Damien. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't amused. He wasn't the man who once dismissed her as forgettable. He looked, stunned. As if seeing her for the first time. As if the woman standing before him wasn't the one he had left on a foreign shore. But someone he no longer had the power to break. Damien didn't move at first. He just stood there, framed by the doorway of the art house, as if the world had tilted and he was the only one who felt it. His eyes roamed over Elena, her posture, the quiet strength in her expression, the way people around her gravitated toward her without force, without fear. He had spent years convincing her she was forgettable. Yet here she was, unforgettable in a room full of strangers who respected her more in one night than he had in their entire relationship. "Elena," he said finally, his voice low, cautious. Not the commanding tone he used to weaponize, but something closer to uncertainty, something she had never heard from him before. She blinked once. "Damien." He stepped closer, his shoulders tense. "I've been looking for you." "And you found me," she replied softly. Not cold. Not warm. Just steady. He searched her face, waiting for something, the fear she used to show, the softness he exploited, the eagerness to please. None of it was there. Instead, he found composure so calm it unsettled him. "Elena, listen, what happened that night, it was stupid. A joke gone too far." "I didn't think," "No," she interrupted gently. "You didn't." The room seemed to quiet around them. He exhaled sharply, frustrated. "I want to make things right." She tilted her head slightly. "Do you? Or do you just want things back the way they were?" His jaw tightened. "I miss you." Elena looked at him for a long moment, then said something that froze him completely. "You miss the version of me you could control. Not the woman I've become." The truth landed between them like a stone dropped into still water. No anger. No hatred. Just clarity. Damien's eyes darkened with something she recognized, panic. The realization that the power he held so casually was no longer his. "Elena," he whispered, "please, come home." She smiled softly. "I am home." Behind her, the art house glowed with warmth, laughter, music, and community, everything she had built for herself without him. A life sculpted from courage, not fear. A life born from the very abandonment that was meant to break her. Damien reached toward her, but she stepped back, not out of fear, but choice. "You left me on a foreign shore thinking I would shatter," she said. "But I didn't. I rebuilt." He swallowed hard. "Is this it, then? You're just done?" "Yes," she whispered. "And for the first time, it's not because you pushed me away. It's because I pulled myself free." She walked past him, her steps unhurried. Outside, the Barcelona night embraced her with a breeze that smelled of sea salt and new beginnings. Her friends followed, Sophia laughing softly, Nor linking her arm with Elena's, Jonah clapping her on the shoulder, Matteo offering a quiet nod of approval. Elena didn't look back. She didn't need to. Some endings are loud. Hers was powerful because it was silent. If Elena's journey from abandonment to unstoppable power touched you, hit the like button right now. My favorite part was when she told Damien, "You missed the version of me you could control." What was your favorite moment? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget, subscribe to Masked Bonds 1 for more emotional, cinematic stories of women reclaiming their power.